It's not like I don't have big enough ears to hook this thing on. Thank you. Whatever happened to hand mics? It's so convenient. So, well, good to see these smiling faces. I hope everyone's had a good lunch. Now's the time for everyone to wake up, because this is a very special hour and a quarter you have ahead of you. This chap to my left doesn't really need any introduction, and I'll give him a taste of it. He's a real pioneer of this industry that we all work in. He's been running a 360-degree music empire since 30 years before it ever became an industry buzzword. I suspect everyone in this room has bought a record which this man has signed and released at some point. And I suspect everyone in this room has probably also been to a gig he's promoted. And certainly many of us will see many of them in years to come. He's been called Gudinski. He's been called many worse things than that. He's also been called boss by many thousands of people in this industry. Please welcome Michael Gudinski. Can everyone hear me okay? Because I certainly can't hear myself up here. It's sod's law, isn't it? Michael, despite the technical problems I'm suffering.
Yes, mate.
How are you feeling?
Do you really want a state-by-state breakdown of my health?
No, just a quickie.
No, I think sounded a bit hoarse. Big night last night. Live up to the word, but up at 6:30 out the front of my house doing a sunrise live cross this morning, which everyone in my office were taking bets that I would miss, but I knew I wouldn't because it's good to keep people guessing, but it was worth getting up early because they've given us the most amazing push for what I believe is Damien Slevenson's next big signing, and we're going to get a massive reaction to Little Red, and Sunrise really have jumped on board and given us a real good setup, and when people go out of their way to help you with stuff like that, I'll get up in the morning rather than stay up all night.
It's great to have you here. 2 years ago I was sitting in the audience waiting to see you. You couldn't make it, you were sick, so it's great that you're here today.
I must say that wasn't a good night. I was legitimately sick and I said I'd make it back. And,
that's what you told me then too.
Oh, I'm glad to be here and it's all good.
You spoke at Meedem earlier this year, a keynote speaker at Meedem. So in Brisbane, what do you think about this whole situation of speaking at Big Sound?
Look, happy to be here. Hope we don't bore people talking about the past too much. It's really about the future, but I know we'll talk about it fast. It's been a big few weeks in my life. I go through, it's very difficult when you've got so much going on. I've created my own sort of wrath, but when you've got that much going on with that many different companies and that many different things, you just, it's very hard to have the perfect day as such, or the perfect week, but I'm pretty resilient, and I've got, I think at the moment I've mostly got one of the strongest teams around me I've ever had, the Mushroom Group, and my success has always been due to great staff. I'm pretty hands-on with a lot of staff, and very, very important, especially in these days of no excess in a lot of areas of the music business and the record business being so tough. We try and make sure that everyone's a gun, and every gun has got someone right next to them that's learning, and it's not necessarily something that you can pick up by going to a marketing course or go to university, and I'm a firm believer in that. But I guess half my job is really getting the best out of those people and being a bit of a psychoanalyst, and it makes it difficult for some of my own projects, but now that the team's in pretty strong shape and my son's starting to take a much bigger role, I can sort of muck around a little bit again.
You said you didn't want to spend too much time looking at the past, but let's do that anyway. Let's go right back, Michael. This year is an important milestone for a number of reasons. It's the 30th anniversary of one of your companies, Frontier Touring Company, and also it's your 50th year in business, isn't it? I did the numbers. It's been 50 years since you first started making money. How did it come about, Michael?
Oh, just right spot, right passion, and seeing you want to go right that far back, I guess the music industry back when I started was a very backyard industry. Brisbane was actually a very interesting spot to come up to because it was a very tough run. There was 2 or 3 people that had full control of what we call big dances in those days. God, we missed the Cloud Ribbon Ballroom. We had so many great shows there, I must say that while I'm up here for anyone from Brisbane. But look, at school I worked out pretty quickly that I didn't like school, and I worked the other thing out, and that was I wanted to have a job when I woke up that was like, yes, whatever job anyone does, if they like doing it, or if they're interested in doing it, or if it's a means to somewhere that they, I think it makes so much difference to your whole well-being and to what the future may bring. And as much as my old man wasn't that happy when I left high school, all was good.
You did make the old man happy at one point later in your career as a promoter, didn't you?
Well,
which gig was that?
He was dead by then, but he would have loved to come and see Frank Sinatra. Would have been the only show I think I've ever done that he would have wanted to know. But look, he came from an old European background. It really wasn't relevant. What was relevant was at the time, what I couldn't understand, I started going to... Music is in people's lives much younger these days. It went through a bit of a period where live music was a bit... I couldn't understand it when I was talking to a few 18-year-olds about 10 years ago, and they hadn't been to a live gig, and that's what was really doing my head in with all the games and shit around. And I guess it's sort of, I hate to say this, I don't believe it's coming out of my mouth, but I guess on a positive note, Idol and those type of shows have actually done something for the music industry in the sense that it's put music in a lot of young kids' faces early, and it's put interest in music a little bit back up the front. But when I was around, music didn't play a part. My sister used to be a big jazz fan, and I used to hear Barbra Streisand and Annie Ross and all that stuff when I was about 7, 8, 9 in the background. But when I was about 12 or 13, I started to go and see bands perform, and it was a real cultural cringe in Australia at the time, and I'm very concerned at the moment about things more than the past, but it was a ridiculous thing to me that people thought of local music and as second rate, and they thought of the Holden as second rate, which it may well have been, the Holden that is, but everything was about import record shops. It was about the latest new thing from overseas, and I was seeing these bands going down really well, and artists, and I felt that there was I was on the start of a wave, and that's really what happened. And I made a few mistakes early on, and I learned that no matter how hip, cool and groovy you are, if you can't pay your bills, you're shit. So you make a few changes and you try and realise that stuff is, business is business, and it's all very well to be all palsy and be the coolest company in the world, but seriously, if you can't pay the artists and you can't pay the producers and you can't pay the people that are doing the right thing, you really shouldn't be in this business. And that's how the business was. And Mushroom wasn't started because I had some genius idea that Mushroom, a record label was going to be the next big thing, or that it was just purely out of necessity. At that time, believe it or not, in the late 60s and early 70s, acts were told who were their producers, what songs they'd record. A lot of them weren't even allowed to have a say in their album cover, stuff that just made no sense in a creative business. So, I sort of, I guess, filled a bit of a gap and tried to change things around, and I think there's a lot more change that needs to happen right now. I think we've entered a very crucial stage, which the big companies brought on themselves by letting legology not deal with the new technology, and they've simply sat back greedily and seen the business evaporate, and we all have to live with that, but there's positives to that as well.
Okay, let's come back to the big picture stuff. I certainly want to spend the last half of our chat looking at the state of the market, but I want to spend a little bit more time talking about you, if we don't mind. I mentioned earlier 50 years in business. I just point out 50 years not running Mushroom, but as a young lad you were making cash by parking cars in the backyard.
I was trying to work out how you got 50 years. Yeah, no, that was my first entrepreneurial event. Was about 200 yards we lived from the Caulfield racetrack, and my father let me put 8 cars in the big backyard, 2 bob a car, and that was it. So there you go.
And you were never a musician, which is interesting. Most guys who rise to the top in this game have a background playing an instrument, poorly or not.
Look, I think in a way I mostly could have contributed more, but in a way it could have been a distraction. I've never been a frustrated star, or I've never wanted to be that person when I was like a young, skinny, good-looking bloke, not like I am now. But being not a musician in a way has been, you know, I feel I'm very creative, but you let the people that know what they're doing, you put combinations together, and I guess, look, if I had my time again, I would have continued on with the pain in the ass piano teacher when I was 6 years old, but that wasn't to be.
Did she get to see you rise to become Mr. Mushroom?
Mate, I wouldn't even know she was alive today. I don't remember her name.
We should try calling her. I heard just earlier, Corder Marshall, your good friend at a conference in the UK, was asked his comments on Michael Gudinski, and he described you as the Cruella de Vil of Australian music industry. Do you have a wardrobe of outfits made from Dalmatians, perhaps?
No, but don't tug on the cape, mate.
Do you get angry? Are you an angry man at times?
I'm a screamer, mate.
Is that why you have a coarse throat at the moment?
No, look, I get angry, I can fly off the handle. I'm not a physically angry person, but I'll throw things around, I'll yell and scream a bit. You know, you've got to have passion in this business. And people, you know, around me are pretty well used to that. You know, from away overseas for a few weeks, I think they miss it. But that's just, that's my style. People have heard me screaming from the top of that building in Dundas Lane in Albert Park, and the whole building can shudder, and they also hear me playing some of my favourite songs. They know when a song's a priority, mate. They hear it 18 times a day for fucking 2 weeks, coming blasting out of my office. They know exactly what's going to be priorities in my joint, mate.
Do you spend much time on travelling and seeing bands around the world?
Look, I've travelled and travelled and travelled and travelled, and it was a lot harder in the 70s because there was a major tyranny of distance. It was like, you know, 28-hour 5-stop flight to London. You could smoke pot in the toilets because there was no smoke alarm, so that was one good thing. And look, luckily I was a very good flyer. I don't know how, but I was a really good flyer, and I used to sleep a lot on planes. And you know, when you left, you had to go and do the whole rounds. You know, these days you got to go somewhere important. You can go for 2 days. Back then, it was just, you know, insanity. And look, a lot of it, I didn't travel internationally or overseas until I was most probably 22 or something like that, which I think is pretty late these days, 23. And the one thing it sort of really sorted out in my head that there was a much bigger picture going on, and you know, I had this passion about taking Australian music to the world. Plus, when I was travelling in those days, and I'm proud enough to say it, and anyone that's going to be doing a lot of travelling, you just keep one eye open, and you're going to find ideas, and you just don't have to rip them off. You just borrow them, bring them back to Australia, and use them, and you know, you can get a much better indicator. But a lot of people used to think Australia was quite backward as a place, but when you travel quite a bit, you realise how good we've got it here, really.